All right, so people love show and tell. So this week we've got another one. It's bigger, it's better. Truthfully, this is an absolutely incredible situation that is unfolding right now. And let's get going. All right. So today I'm going to talk about a stock that could do this. And what's this? Well, could this one stock do this in 1 week? And that's go from 50 cents to $50. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to do this, it's guaranteed to do it, that it's certain to do it. I just want to say, make clear that this is one of the possibilities, but genuinely, it's one of the possibilities. It could actually happen. And before I get going, I want to mention a few things. Number one, this channel, this is opinion, not investment advice. All right. So win, lose, gain, loss, it's on you. It's your responsibility. Second, I just want to mention that you like stocks like these, like the ones that I mentioned last week, 15,000% gains, big money situations where you have the chance, the shot to make hundreds of percent, thousands of percents. Well, then check into ATG Digital, which is my company. We have subscriptions and we cover these kinds of stocks. The portfolio is full of these kinds of stocks. We are focused on opportunity, growth, innovation. Subscriptions start at $9.99 per month. There's a link below. Also follow me on my Substack, where we discuss and write about these stocks every single market day. All right. So let's get to the part that my guess is that you're most interested in, which is the 1 week part, because everybody wants, we're impatient. We want fast gains. So why in 1 week? Like, what's going on? Well, there is an event going on. All right. And the event is a court case. Now, being truthful, there have been a lot of court cases for this stock, but there is something unusual about this court case that makes me particularly, I don't know what the right word is, optimistic, hopeful, maybe maybe makes me think that, a big gain is possible, because if it went in the favor of this stock, it would be a stunning, shocking surprise. And big gains, in my experience in the stock market, come from surprise, something that no one was expecting to happen. It happens. And as a result, it just drives so much demand into the stock that it just rockets up. All right. But I'm getting ahead. We need to go back in time a little bit and do some backstory on this stock. All right. The backstory on the stock really goes back to 2007. I'm going to give you some details, but it is one of two companies that is absolutely critical to the functioning of the housing mortgage market in the United States. And there are actually two companies, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to focus on one company. But if I say these companies, and I use the word companies, it's because I'm used to thinking about both of these companies sort of as one. But for the purpose of this video, just focus on this one company. Although truthfully, both of these companies are interchangeable and they represent the same opportunity. But like I said, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to focus on this one company. And hey, I am going to give you the ticker symbol. I'm going to give you the company name. I'm going to lay out everything that I can in a fairly short video that I know about the stock. And I've been tracking the stock since 2008. So what, 14 years? Yeah, I mean, I really have tracked every part of this. So I'm not going to give you every single detail because, hey, I might be here a few hours. But the story starts in 2007. Where this stock peaks at $68, right? Then we have the global financial crisis, which happens in 2008. Then the government takes these companies over and essentially kind of like wipes out the people who own the stock by taking an 80% share in this company. But they leave a little under 20% behind, and that continues to keep trading. That's out there, but the price crashes down to 30 cents, right? Yeah, so, this intervention by the government, not good for the shareholders of the company because the government takes 80% of this company's ownership. Yeah, all right. So global financial crisis kind of like, happens. We start to have a recovery. And yeah, I got ahead of myself. Sorry. So government took over. They also delisted the stock. In other words, like it used to trade in the New York Stock Exchange, but it stopped trading there. Instead, it started to trade on this over-the-counter exchange, which is less liquid. There's no market makers. There's no attention. It's kind of like not quite a black market, but it's a market that's off to the side and there's no liquidity there. And so it's kind of like disapproved of. It's in other words, you can't really buy it very easily. And so it kind of like fades into the background and just becomes something that a few people who have been tracking it, like I have, focus on. By 2012 or so, these companies, because hey, the US housing market, it's huge. And housing is a basic need. Well, they're back to making money. And they're starting to make a lot of money. But the government decides that they don't want these companies to have the money. So they start stealing, and I put the air quotes, because this is one of the reasons why there is this court case going on right now, is because of this. The government starts taking the profits of these companies. And this is not just me saying it. Hey, you can check out very quickly. There's two books that are written by very credible people. Bethany McLean is a award-winning author. The second book is one that details what's going on. And you can see the third article essentially proves out what I was saying. All right. I'm fast forwarding here so that I can quickly get into the stock name and the ticker symbol. All right. So there have been a lot of lawsuits. A bunch of hedge funds went and purchased the stock. And also there are similar sort of trades that are available from other stocks that have been issued by these companies called preferreds. But so far, they've kind of failed. They've gone in front of judges, and the judges have generally taken the side of the government. So there's been like moments when these stocks have shot up, when there's been the hope that, okay, they're going to be released, the shareholders are going to be made whole, and then it's been so, and that's happened, hey, a lot. It's been 14 years, right? So, if you go and look at the stock price after I tell you the ticker symbol and the stock, you're going to be like, Paul, this thing has really moved around a lot. I mean, it's gone up and down multiple times, essentially soared and crashed, which is why I keep mentioning this channel, opinion, not advice, and there is risk here. So, all right. So what's going on now? What's going on now? So the big difference that I see that is going on now is that this stock is now being considered in a court case, but where there is a jury trial. A jury is made up of regular people who don't always necessarily see the law in very technical terms. They look at the situation. They also consider things that truthfully, sometimes judges, they're such technocrats or they're so like, straight line that they kind of like miss the obvious stuff. So you've got regular people looking at the facts for the very first time, at least by my reckoning. And that changes the potential, outcomes that can happen. Like when the judges have gone through, they've just generally sided with the government. They say, well, the law that allowed for this kind of, allows them to do this. But here, a jury, yeah, you don't really know what they're going to say. And as I said, this is the first time that a jury is determining a case outcome instead of a judge. And that really is a wild card. Nobody really can tell, like, what is this jury going to do? I mean, there's, from what I read, 8 people that are on this jury. I read from a Twitter account that is following this that it's 8 women, and they have to come to a unanimous decision on this. All right, so there are some other things going on compared to previous cases, which is that, number one, I cited that there is a jury trial. The second is that there's actually evidence this time that they are producing, whereas previous trials, it was just about like, hey, does the law allow the government to do this? In this case, there is actually something that is being presented that says the government had access to documents that said that these companies were going to be profitable. And because they saw that they acted in a certain way to do something that's called a net worth sweep. In other words, they essentially just took all the profits of these companies and kept them for now 10 years. And folks, this is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So it's not a small amount of money. All right. So that's different. In other words, this is the first time where you're having a jury trial look actually at a piece of evidence versus just considering things from the perspective of, well, does the law allow the government to do this? And then what we also have going on is, of course, the elections today. And the elections, they also add a element to this that is different, which I'm going to cover. All right. So covered this, which is that jury will see things different than a judge. Also covered this, which is that there is a document that shows what's in there. And then the elections, well, backstory again, these companies have been supported by the Democratic Party in the past. They had an affordable housing mandate. The Republicans historically have generally opposed this company because, well, it is seen as a company that subsidizes sort of a government substitute for mortgages and a role that a bank could play. I'm not going to get into this, but just let's say that the Democratic Party has an interest in these companies really surviving, continuing, doing what they do. And generally speaking, it is seen, and remember, I don't do politics, I do analysis, all right? So people who want to, troll me or argue with me about it, it's like, listen, I'm just giving you analysis, all right? So Republicans are seen as not wanting these companies to succeed. So if the current polling, et cetera, is correct, and there is going to be a changeover in Washington, D.C. of power, well, then this would also accelerate the desire to kind of free these companies from the government owning as much of them as they currently do and allowing them to go back and trade, say, on the New York Stock Exchange and become full-fledged companies and potentially get back some of these profits that the government has taken from them. All right. So I know, so it's a little bit complicated, but let's just summarize this before I get down to it, which is that you've got a stock that's currently trading for 50 cents that previously traded at an all-time high at $68. All right. Then we've got a court case where the closing arguments are being made this week and next. So we're going to have a decision coming sooner rather than later. And it's going to be a unanimous decision by jury trial. There's evidence that's different. And then we have faced the pressure of this election where, let's say even these companies lose, there is also the possibility that if the election goes as the way that the polling is currently saying, that perhaps you might have various different things happen that could really push this stock really to go up anyway. Maybe it doesn't go from 50 cents to 50, but it would go up and go up a lot. So what's the stock? Well, the stock is Fannie Mae, ticker symbol FNMA, current price about 50 cents. So penny stock trades on the over-the-counter bulletin board exchange. In other words, this is like, the spreads between what you can buy and sell are like wide. There's no market makers. This is kind of like an unofficial stock exchange. So, hey, folks, warning straight ahead. Yeah, this is risky, no guarantees, and everything that we're doing is opinion, not advice. All right. So why would anybody, really pay, let's say $50? Let's say I'm right. I'm not saying I'm guaranteed to be right, but let's say I'm right. Why would they do this? Well, I mentioned earlier that Fannie Mae dominates a very important part of the market for housing. In other words, when you get a mortgage, Fannie Mae takes that mortgage and packs it up into a security and then sells it to investors. And that is incredibly important for the housing market. It's sort of like a secret market that sits there that most people have no awareness of, but the vast majority of people's 30-year mortgages, Well, Fannie Mae was involved, or this other company, which is called Freddie Mac, just want to mention that, is also involved in, but we're going to stick to Fannie Mae. All right. So at present, Fannie Mae's market capitalization, for those of you who don't know what that is, market capitalization, you take the stock price, which Fannie Mae is 50 cents, and you multiply it times the number of shares, is about 587 million. Now, you may think that's a large amount of money, but truthfully, in terms of the scope of the stock market, that is a tiny, puny little company. Yeah. Apple is a $2 trillion company, and 2 trillion is sort of like the moon relative to, 587 million. So this is a very, very small company. But in 2006, when it was trading at its peak, this was a $60 billion company. $60 billion. Yeah. So it was way bigger. And if I simply compare two things from 2006 at its peak to today, and remember what this company does. In other words, they take mortgages, they kind of pack them up into bonds, and then they sell them to investors, right? So this is an arbitrary comparative, but nonetheless, you go back to 2006, Fannie Mae had 844 billion, more or less, in assets. And in 2021, they have 4.2 trillion. Yeah, with a T, trillion. So like 5x. So this company in the 16 years, really, since the global financial crisis, the government takeover, the government taking its profits, I mean, it is 4 times bigger. So this stock, if it were trading regularly, would probably be higher than $68, which was the previous peak. So let's deal with, when might this happen? Well, closing arguments, like I said, are happening this week and potentially next week. I mean, it can go on for a while, but nonetheless, the jury will come to a decision. Then I mentioned the election and the fact that, with the election, you have a new set of outcomes that are a definite another event for this stock. So why focusing on 1 week? Well, the court decision, if the current polls are right and there is a changeover, then I believe that the Democratic Party, as part of, before they move out of power by January, well, I mean, they could pass legislation to sort of free these companies, where these companies would now be able to go back to sort of where they were in 2006 before the government took them over. If the same thing happened, there could also be presidential action through executive order. In other words, President Biden could sort of issue an executive order saying like, hey, it's time to free these companies, allow them to trade freely, allow them to go back to being regular private companies regulated by the government. And if that's the scenario, well, then Fannie Mae could go from 50 cents to $50 because, hey, I told you, like, this is a $587 million market cap company that used to be worth 60 billion. They are at least 4 times bigger than they were in 2006. What's the right value for Fannie Mae today? Truthfully, I don't really know, because you know what? They have not been traded in a way. We don't know how investors would view them. Their business model is slightly changed. Their market is bigger. They're still as important as ever to the marketplace. So maybe it happens in a week. Maybe it's a month. Maybe it's a year. I don't know. Well, it's been 14 years for me, but hey, still, it's something that's big that could happen. Stock price is small, but remember, no guarantees, not financial advice. atgdigital.media if you're looking for stocks like this, situations like this, events like this, and want to support show and tells like this. All right, so if you like this video, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe.